So let your attention go inward and just take a moment to, on purpose, relax wherever you can relax. Feel your body. You may let the shoulders soften a little, the hands. Loosening in the belly and taking a full breath or two. And then this is the opportunity to bring your attention to where you might be defending, have a defended heart, and where it takes the shape of blame, where it takes the shape of ongoing judgment, or where it takes the shape of outright anger or hatred. And to begin just to sense where that is in your life. So we start with the storyline. We start where we are blaming outward, angry towards someone out there, resentful, have a grievance. And if you let the story be there, you can just investigate what it is that really is triggering you, what it is that has happened. Just enough so you can feel in your body that sense of blaming, of aggression, of reactivity. And know that in this guided meditation, you might or might not get in touch with what you want to, but this gives you a kind of template for practicing on your own. What Rumi says is finding the barriers. The feeling where the blame is or the judgment. And then sensing under it and sensing, what's the emotion under this? If I couldn't keep blaming this person, what would I have to feel? Just ask that. If you couldn't hold on to the aversive blame, what's the uncomfortable emotion that would be there? Is it a feeling of being hurt? Is it a feeling of being endangered? Vulnerable? Is it a feeling of grief, of loss? What's there? Whatever you encounter, agree to it. Just sense that you can let it be as full as it wants to be right now. If you couldn't keep blaming this person, just allowing yourself to feel the hurt or the powerlessness, the grief, fear, or maybe you sense that you're blaming yourself then. Feel the shame or guilt that's there, whatever it is. Your only job is to allow it to be there so you can continue being present. But notice what happens as you allow it to be there if you just offer some kindness, some gesture of kindness to whatever's under there. For some of you, just putting the hand on the heart could be a very direct and powerful way to offer your presence and kindness to whatever's underneath the blame and see what happens. Just keep paying attention. Sense, even with just a little attention, that there's some reconnecting with what's really you in there, the aliveness, the energy, that you're coming home in an honest way. You're not fixating outwardly. It's a courageous presence with your own vulnerability. adding a little more kindness right now. It's like I sometimes say to myself, it's okay, sweetheart. Whatever your version of just some gentle gesture toward yourself, so the presence comes even more full towards whatever vulnerability's there. And see if you can sense in the midst of this presence what I've been describing as that intrinsic love, that intimacy where there's some purity of tenderness, of warmth, of light that's already here, that starts shining when you bring presence to your own experience. And know that you can, whenever you feel drawn, practice this, just noticing when the heart armoring is there, and just having the intention to pause and to become intimate with your inner experience as a way of tapping into that intrinsic loving presence. So opening your eyes, and we'll just for now know that that's one version of the armoring. Now another way that we armor ourselves, as I described it, is that clinging or that pursuit, where we're grabbing on to another person. We're grabbing on and trying to hold on so that we can get what we want from outside us. And infatuation, fixation, feelings of jealousy, feelings of if I don't have this person's approval or attention or love, something will go very, very wrong. So it's the pursuit. One man came to a retreat and he was feeling an enormous amount of pain because he really loved his wife and his wife didn't love him back. And there just was a real imbalance, and he kept trying and longing for intimacy, and she really just didn't want a divorce because they had children, but she just did not want intimacy with him. And when I'd ask him, well, who do you know that really does love you? He would say, oh, well, my children love me and my parents love me and so on. And when I'd ask him, well, what happens when you try to just feel yourself letting in the love of those beings, those people, he wasn't able to. And I'm sharing that because when we're in the pursuit, when we're trying to get love, get approval, get attention, we cannot receive love. In fact, for most of us, to some degree, if we're really honest, we'll say, yeah, I feel these people love me or whatever, but our capacity in a very visceral, immediate way to feel the washing in of love, to feel held, to feel embraced in some way, is very limited. We're not good at receiving love. I'd just be curious how many of you sense that yourself and others. Is that, yeah, okay. So it's part of, this cultural idea that it's more important to give love than to receive, and yet, like breathing, we really need to be able to do both. And often we need to pay attention to having a more of a porous, receptive quality so we can let it come in. I'd like to recommend John Welwood's book, Perfect Love, Imperfect Relationships. He talks a lot about this, and a lot of the themes of tonight are in that book. And he quotes Rilke. Rilke says, "To love is to cast light, while to be love means to be ablaze." And then John says, "Who is to say that being ablaze is any less holy than casting light? And how can we cast pure light if we're not ablaze?" Right? I think that's really good. So again, this armoring that we have, it prevents us from it makes us hold back the giving of love, and it prevents it from coming in. When we're either blaming or we're pursuing, it's hard to let in love. So what we'll be doing as our final meditation is an exploration of letting in love. And before we do that, I just want to kind of, in a more whole way, to set a context that tonight we've been exploring how we have this profound, soulful longing for belonging and love. And we have this incredibly strong conditioning to protect ourselves and armor ourselves because of the natural wounding that happens in this lifetime. And our path is to begin to investigate and release the armoring so that that very pure love that's within us can shine through in our engagement with each other. And our practice involves both internally being with these different areas of woundedness and learning to receive through as we meditate, and learning how to do it in an engaged way. It's both. But just to honor that this loving experience is something that has been cherished through all of time. Dante was standing near Ponte Vecchio, bridge that crosses the Arno River in Florence. It was just before 1300. Dante saw Beatrice standing on the bridge. He was a young man, she even younger, and that vision contained the whole of eternity for him. Dante did not speak to her and saw her very little. And when Beatrice died, carried off by the plague, Dante was stricken with the loss of his vision. She was the connection between his soul and heaven itself. 650 years later, during World War II, the Americans were chasing the German army up the Italian peninsula. The Germans are blowing up everything of aid to the progression of the American army, including the bridges across the Arno River. But no one wanted to blow up Ponte Vecchio because Beatrice had stood on it and Dante had written about her. So the German army made radio contact with the Americans and in plain language said they would leave the Ponte Vecchio intact if the Americans would promise not to use it. The promise was held. The bridge was not blown up and not one American soldier or piece of equipment went across it. We're such hard-bitten people that we need hard-bitten proof of things, and this is the most hard-bitten fact I know to present to you. The bridge was spared in a modern, ruthless war because Beatrice had stood upon it. It's universal. We long to belong. We sometimes fixate it outward, but ultimately, if we check deep inside ourselves, the very source of that longing is the loving itself. It's love calling us home. That's what longing is. So let's do a final meditation. We'll be going over about 2 or 3 minutes tonight, but give you a taste of this. So again, just feel your senses awake. And allow yourself honestly to scan your life and sense to the degree it's true how or where you feel cut off or separate from love. It may be in a very general way, or it may be in a specific relationship. And so this takes a bit of courage and honesty just to sense where that's so for you, where you feel cut off or separate from love. So you can sense it as an actual feeling in your body, where the absence of love, where there's actually a feeling in the body of this is something that's missing, just to let the longing be activated. So letting yourself feel that kind of separateness, but also sensing that you actually do long to be more intimate, more connected. Perhaps that intimacy with all things, you really long to feel that belonging. You might have a certain story of a person you want to feel it with or whatever, that's fine, but stay right with the longing, right in your body, in your heart, just the feeling of wanting to be seen, appreciated, held. So this is a real reflection on how much you want to be seen and loved. And really in the most basic way, love for who you are, free to be who you are in love. And see if you can feel that as a longing, a real longing in the heart area. If it helps you to breathe and feel your heart. If it helps you to use words like, please love me, or I want to feel love, I want to feel held. Just experiment, don't limit yourself. Just to see if you can tap into that longing. It's that sense of please love me. Let the love wash in. Let it enter me. And as you feel that sincerity of just longing to belong, look and see if you can intuit some love that's actually right here. Just as you trace back right into the source of the longing. And the more full the longing is in your body, the more you might sense that there's also some warmth and light and love that comes right through it. Is love available? Just sense right now. So that as you say, please love me, sense if there's love right here. Warmth, light, love. And let it enter you, let it bathe you. Feel it all around you, permeating you. And don't worry, because if you don't feel love, just practice reconnecting with the real aliveness of longing. Please love me. Please love me. It can be subtle sometimes what we feel, just kind of some warmth or a gentle embrace, might be a sense of kind of floating in warm water. For some it's just deep relaxation, some maybe even a stillness. Whatever you're experiencing, just relax into it. This is a life practice. To the extent you feel some loving presence, just melt into it. Be held by it. Let it suffuse your cells and be one with it. Sensing that heart space where everything that is welcome. And sensing our shared prayer that all beings everywhere might awaken to the loving presence that is their essence. That all beings everywhere might trust that loving presence, trust their belonging, and live from love. May there be peace on earth. May there be peace everywhere. May all beings awaken and be free. Namaste.